I'm glad to be here per usual. We got a good training today. It's when a resident or client is no longer the right fit. So that's what we're going to be diving into today. I think that this topic and title is just so important because it can be done right and it can be done so wrong, right? As far as realizing when a resident is no longer the right fit for your home's programs and services, and then what you do about that, right? I've seen it done right and I've seen it done wrong. So we're going to go over that today, but let me do my little introduction first. If this is the first time ever catching me live and this is the first time you're in the group and you're new here, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to have you. I am Ariana Jay and I help current and aspiring providers start, grow, and scale their licensed assisted living, group home, and community hab businesses so they can build wealth through care and make powerful positive impact within their local community, right? So that's what I do. I have a home and community-based agency. I have a couple group homes. I have clients outside of my group homes. I have a wonderful care team that make it all possible for me to even be here with you guys today. So that is a little bit about me. Hopefully we have good connection and all of that today. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. Real quick, before I do that, we did a Q&A last week and several people showed up. They asked their questions, and just kudos to you guys who showed up and like made the time and space in your calendar to be able to do that. I know like in your startup journey, there's not a lot of opportunity to like come on screen and like ask questions and this and that based off your unique situation. And so they were able to do that last week. So kudos to you guys for being able to, be committed and pour into yourself, into your business last week when we did that call on Zoom. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So it's really interesting when a resident or a clientele, like in your home's programs and services, aren't the right fit, what happens, right? And you might be like, well, what do you mean, Ariana? What do you mean not the right fit? Well, that could look like a lot of different things, okay? If you see me looking over, I'm looking at my notes. That could look like a lot of different things. And there's a lot of different variables that go into place for a client to come into your home's programs and services and not be the right fit, right? So I want to talk about that first, give a little context, and then we're going to jump into the rest. So when a resident or a client, because it does not have to be with a licensed assisted living or group home, this could be with community hab. So when an individual is no longer the right fit, there could be a couple reasons, right? Could be you've accepted somebody into your home's programs and services who just weren't it, right? You may have not felt the mesh with them or their guardian, right? Or their decision maker. You've brought them into the program because maybe you wanted to make ends meet. You needed a cash injection into your business. So you just went ahead and accepted this individual. Maybe you had some like negative thoughts or like some red flags, I'll say, not negative thoughts, but red flags on somebody when you're bringing them into your home's programs and services at the beginning, but you didn't really listen to that, right? Or you could have had a great fit, a great match with them. And then for whatever reason, because there can be a variety of different reasons that come into play, that individual is no longer a right fit for your agency and you are no longer a good fit for them. Okay. It's a two-way street. So there are some things that could happen for that. I've had residents and clients and program participants who have been in my programs and services in the home and outside of the home who were once a great fit, who were originally a good fit, and then they weren't for a variety of different reasons. And I'm not going to go into exactly what those are, but it could be for a variety of different reasons. I will say this, that more so than not, it's not necessarily the individual themselves who are no longer the right fit. Could be, but it more so, at least for me, has been the guardian or the decision maker who is no longer the right fit, right? Individuals come to us, they come into our care because they have a need. They need our service. So there's a reason why they're there, right? We have to keep that in the forefront of our mind. And if you don't keep that in the forefront of your mind, then a lot of other things can happen, and we'll go into that. But in a nutshell, at least for me, I'm talking about from my experience, that's what it has been for the most part. Okay. So that's just me. There could be other reasons that you may experience or other people have experienced, right? But for me, that's what it is. So what do you do when they're no longer the right fit? What do you do? I have seen several times where agency owners, or not necessarily agency owners, or is maybe a director or whoever's in charge of their program administrator, they may not handle it right. They may not, right? We're human beings, and we have emotions and we have feelings, and they may not handle it right. They might get the sense that this individual is causing too many problems, or the guardian is being difficult, or whatever the situation is, and they take it and they allow their emotions to control their actions. And when you are in this line of work and you are dealing with people's lives, like, you cannot do that. Right? But I have seen it where all of a sudden the individual's just kicked out of everything, or their living environment has become toxic, or all of a sudden there's all of these problems that just magically appear, right? no problems before, right? And then all of a sudden, when they want them out and they're no longer the right fit, all of a sudden there's a ton of problems. Documentation before hasn't been great, but then all of a sudden there's a shit ton of documentation and all these problems just popped out of the woodwork, right? I will say documentation is king. But what you have to do is when you are starting to sense and feel that you're not the right fit or they're not the right fit or vice versa, right? You have to learn to do a couple of things. And so the first thing is, as I mentioned before, you have to control your emotions. This is not necessarily about you, right? This is not your life in a way, right? It's your business, but it's not your life. This is a real person's life that we're dealing with, right? I don't know if you guys did that exercise. I did it many, many, many years ago at this point, but it was one where you have one individual and then that person has strings, right? They have strings that reach out to all of these different people in their life. So you can look at it like their care team or whatever. And then what happens when you go and cut those strings, right? It's this whole exercise. But that training had made a very big impression on me. And I am very cautious about cutting the relationship between myself and an individual and how that's done. It's not to say that I'm supposed to last forever in everyone's life and that I'm always going to be a perfect fit for everybody, right? That's not what I'm saying. But how we cut that is important to me. And so part of it is controlling your emotions, because if you don't do it, things can be said or done that are going to negatively impact this individual's life. And that goes against everything that I stand for, right? That I want this community to stand for. And I practice what I preach. So I don't stand for that. And so I try to be as careful as I can be. Now, there are situations where people are just plain out difficult to work with, right? You try to do things in a certain order and they're just plain out difficult. You know, I can't do anything about that. But what I can do is control my emotions. I can control my response. I can make sure that my care team controls that too. And a lot of providers, I've seen with my own eyes that they struggle with this. Okay, so now you know that there's an issue. Now you know that they're not the right fit. So what do we need to do next? We need to have a meeting. We need to have a team meeting. We need to bring in the team players and we need to talk about what the issues and challenges are. And we need to address that, right? Formally. And if you have your documentation and all of that, like bring it to the meeting, but present it in a very nice way, right? I know when I was going through something like this year, I think it was for the 30-day check-in, there was a lot of things that were going on, right? There was a ton of things that were going on. But when I brought it to the attention of the team, I made sure to present that individual's strengths first. You always, even when you're working with your staff, right? Your employees, your care team, you want to make sure that you're presenting their strengths first. Like nobody wants to just hear all of this stuff that you're going to say and their mind may be complaining about them. So you present that first. So that's what I would do. I'd present it first. And then I would talk about the struggles that we're seeing, the challenges that we're facing. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be with the individual. Like I said, it could be with their guardian, right? And so we're going to get a meeting scheduled. We're going to create an action plan. And then we're going to actually work that action plan. We're going to make sure, that everybody's on the same page, that everybody's signing that action plan, that all of the team members, even my own care team, are aware of what those steps are and what that action plan is. So we're going to implement that and we're going to hold all parties accountable for what they have agreed to in this action plan. And then we're going to do that. And I say at least do that for at least 30 days if you can get that long. Sometimes you can't, right? I've been in that situation where you can't. You get into it 3 days and it's just not working. So then you have to go back to the drawing board and you have to figure some things out. But the key is you need to do it in a space where you're always putting the individual's best, like what's best for them first. It's not what's best for you. It's not what's best for your care team, as long as it's not hurting anybody or your other clientele, right? I can be uncomfortable to try to make something work. I can be uncomfortable to hopefully for the team to kind of come back together and be on common ground. I can do that and I can ask my team to do that too, right? It's not like we're doing it for eternity. We're trying to make something work and the individual's needs are top priority to us. But if that doesn't work, then, right, you've implemented that plan and that doesn't work, then we're definitely going to look at putting a notice in, or they're going to put a notice in, vice versa. If you're implementing a plan and it's not working, either you're going to put the notice in or they're going to put the notice in. A lot of people don't like for the client or the guardian to put the notice in, right? They don't like that. They want to beat them to the chase. And I'm not like that. It's not a tit for tat type of thing with me because the individual is always in the forefront for me and for Andre, right? So if they give a notice, then they give a notice, right? I'm doing what we've talked about doing. I'm working the plan. And if they feel like it's not for them before I do, then that's fine. It's not a tit for tat. And I think that people, they have to change their providers, right? This is who I'm talking to, providers, current providers, and then you aspiring providers need to think of that when you are accepting people into your homes, programs, and services. This is a big deal. And we're not just, out here, I don't know, doing something simple. These are people's lives that we're talking about, right? I think that, you know, a lot of people don't think about the individual who they're serving. They don't think about their reputation that they're going to have after that, right? So when you have a care team, let me just paint a quick picture for you. When you have an individual, that individual, I like to say, has at least 5 people who are attached to them. When you're caught up in your emotions and you're not thinking properly and you're not looking at the bigger picture and you're not keeping the individual themselves in the forefront of your mind when you're making these decisions, one, like, it's their life, right? So you're making a negative imprint on their life. The second thing is you're not really thinking about your reputation. These people that are part of that individual's team are going to see the way you act. They're going to see how you conduct yourself. They're going to see how you do business, right? And if you're nasty and gross and just like trying to make this individual's life like not the best, right? My tagline is quality of life for all. Even if your care team or the guardians or whatever, there's this issue going on, my main goal is quality of life for all. So if you are being petty, I would say, or being difficult in this whole process of realizing that the individual is not the best fit for you, the other people who serve that individual and who are on that team, they're going to see that. What reputation do you want? Well, I don't mind the reputation of, oh yeah, my client gave notice because X, Y, or Z, but Alaska Premier, they went above and beyond to try to make the placement work. I rather that than the alternative of, oh, Alaska Premier, and we've never done this, and I'm not even going to use my agency name in the example because I don't even want the energy attached to my business like that. But, oh, ABC agency clearly didn't want this individual in their homes, programs, and services. So all of a sudden they lost their job. All of a sudden, well, why did they lose their job? I don't know. They didn't give an explanation. They just, they lost their job. Or all of a sudden this individual at ABC agency isn't able to participate in the day program anymore. They all of a sudden have to go to individual because that's a recommendation, but they have no staff. So now you got to go find another agency. Or, well, this individual is being disruptive to the home. Well, is there any documentation or proof? Well, no, there's no documentation and proof. This is just what happened. Well, we need documentation and proof. And then all of a sudden there's all of this documentation. I don't want to be that. I don't want my reputation and my agency to be looked at like that. I want the reputation to be that Alaska Premier genuinely cares about the quality of life of their individuals. And they do everything to go above and beyond to meet that or exceed that, right? I don't care what the situation is. And so a lot of people don't get that. A lot of providers don't get that. They don't understand that their reputation is kind of the lifeline of their business, right? And they look at individuals, clientele, residents, however you want to say it, as more of like a dollar sign and not as a person with feelings, and this is their life and their experience that they're going through. So that's kind of what I wanted to say with this training. When a resident is no longer a good fit, you still handle yourself with dignity, with respect, right? With decorum, with all of the things, and you go through the proper steps and channels to see if you can mend the relationship, see if that client and you or the guardian or whoever can get on the same page, or you can't, but you don't do it ugly, right? You're not going to do it in a way that leaves you having a really bad reputation, or that makes the individual suffer in any way, or that upheavals their quality of life, because that's never the goal, right? We have to remember we're here to make impact and we're here to serve. Yes, we are here to make income too, but we have to keep impact at the forefront of our thoughts, our actions, our agency, our care team, right? And the people who work with us closely, they need to be able to know and feel that too. So that's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to tell you guys. I hope you guys are taking notes. There's so much that goes into running a successful agency. There's so much that goes into it, and it's not something that's taught, right? And I think it's so important that we have these little trainings and conversations and all the things that go along with it, not just for ourselves, right, as providers who want to build thriving 7-figure businesses, but also for our team, because what we learn, we're going to pass to them, right? And it's important that they embody the same thing that we embody, what's important to us. My care team knows the quality of life for my people is top, okay? And that's the energy that they have also. It's important. And if you have the energy and hey, Diana, if they have the what am I trying to say? If they see that you don't give a shit about your clients or residents or program participants, you don't give a shit about the guardians, you don't give a shit about the social workers or care coordinators, and you put on this face to them when they're there and you're fake and shit, and then when they leave, you're running your mouth and you're saying all this negative things about your clients, residents, program participants, yada yada. That's exactly what your care team is going to have. That's exactly what your staff is going to portray, because they're seeing that you're allowing that, and that's the type of organization that you run, which I don't want no part of that. So if you're here in this world, you're here in my world, we're premier, we do things right, we're elevating, right? We want the absolute best. Yes, we want to make income, but we want to make some freaking impact also. So that's all I have for you guys. Thanks for rocking with me today. All right, my friends, I will see you next time. Bye for now.